Hey everybody, welcome to Kicking with Kipes. Today was July the 1st. Happy Canada Day. It was supposed to be free agent frenzy. Today specifically was not so much of a frenzy, but we do have a lot of things to talk about signings wise, trades wise. So let's hop right into it. Thanks for joining me. Please note that this is as accurate as I could have done it at the time of this recording. I'm sure as soon as I wake up in the morning after uploading this, it's going to be different. But let's hop right into it and let's have some fun talking about all 32 teams. We are going to go alphabetically in this little thing. So I got my notepad. Let's talk about what happened with the Anaheim Ducks. Michael Granlund, he was in Dallas last year during the playoffs. He signs with the Anaheim Ducks, 3 years, $7 million AAV for a total of $21 million. Kreider, he came from the New York Rangers in a trade for Terrence and a third-round pick. Nothing too much, but the veteran comes to Anaheim. Hopefully can lead their team to the playoffs. They got a new coach in Joel Quenneville as well. Ville Husso, he also signed in Anaheim. He got 2 years, $2.2 million for a total of $4.4 million. Off to the Boston Bruins, they're doing some interesting things. They got a lot of players, but not like high-end, top-quality players. They're all good Boston Bruin players, like Tanner Jeannot. 5-year deal for Jeannot, $3.4 million per year for a total of $17 million. Sean Kuraly, he returns to the Boston Bruins on a 2-year deal, $1.35 million. Michael Eyssimont, he was on the Tampa Bay Lightning last year, went to Seattle. He signs in Boston today, 2 years, $1.45 million for a total of, what does my notes say? It just says $1.45 million. Blumel, I've never heard of this guy. He signs 1 year, $815,000. That's peanuts for the Boston Bruins. Alex Steeves, he was in the Toronto Maple Leaf system last year for the Marlies. I really like Steeves. I thought he should have been brought up a couple more times than he did last year for the Leafs. So hopefully the Bruins can help him break out into the NHL. He signs 1 year, $850,000. Victor Arvidsson, he did not sign in Edmonton. He got traded to Edmonton today. That's hard to say out loud, for a 5th round pick. So the Edmonton Oilers, they shed some cap space. The Boston Bruins, they get a veteran player that can help them in their lineup. Victor Soderstrom, he came from Chicago for Ryan Mast. I had a guy in college, a buddy named Ryan Mast, so it wasn't him. And a 7th round pick. The Buffalo Sabres, they didn't do too much today, but they did re-sign Ryan McLeod. They got McLeod last offseason from the Edmonton Oilers. He re-signs for 4 years, $5 million for a total of $20 million. Alex Lyon, he signs in Buffalo today, 2 years, $1.5 million. Nick Math, that adds up to $3 million a year. My hometown team, the Calgary Flames, they didn't do pretty much anything today except sign for a goaltender from the CSKA Moscow in the KHL. Ivan Prosvetov is how I'm going to say it. 1 year, $950,000. It is because they lost Darth Vlader, Dan Vladar, in the free agents frenzy today to the Philadelphia Flyers, so they needed to replace a goaltender. I'm kind of surprised they didn't re-sign, or I forget if Devin Cooley's still in the system for a year or so. I'm just surprised that they won't call that guy up instead of spending this money, but the Flames, they have a ton of money to spend, and this is all that they did today. So let's see if this can work out as a solid backup for Dustin Wolf. K'Andre Miller and the Carolina Hurricanes have come to a deal for 8 years, $60 million, 6-0. That is a big chunk of change that the Carolina Hurricanes are going to be giving K'Andre Miller. That happened just about an hour or so ago from the New York Rangers. Scott Morrow, and 2 draft picks going the other way to the New York Rangers. So that's a pretty good deal. The defense of the Carolina Hurricanes are most definitely better. So let's see if it can help them out getting past the Eastern Conference Finals, because it doesn't seem like they can do that. Caden Primo, he signs a 1-year deal, $775,000 deal. That is a solid backup for Kochetkov and Anderson. So we'll see if Primo comes up very much during this next coming season, but he was okay for the Montreal Canadiens in the past couple years. Stankoven, Stanky is here to stay in Carolina. He signs an 8-year deal for $6 million per year, I think it is. I can't read my writing. I should have written this down a lot neater. But Stankoven, a very good young player for the Carolina Hurricanes, and he will be in town for 8 more years at least. Chicago Blackhawks, they did a couple minor little things. Dominic Tonnato, he signed 2 years, a two-way contract for $850,000. Meh, that's nothing crazy. They acquired Sam Lafferty, former Toronto Maple Leaf, from the Buffalo Sabres for a 5th-round pick, so nothing too crazy there as well. A 6th-round pick, I should say. My apologies. Burakovsky, they acquired him from the Seattle Kraken for Joe Veleno, 1-for-1 deal. The Colorado Avalanche, they also kept it quiet today. They only re-signed Parker Kelly and a couple small guys, but I'm focusing on the main things that are more relevant than the others. Yes, every signing is important for a franchise, but I'm just focusing, or else we'd be here all day. Parker Kelly, 4 years, $1.7 million per year. He scored at least 2 goals, maybe even a hat trick when he was here in Calgary a couple months ago. So he is a very good depth option for the Colorado Avalanche, and this can only get better. $1.7 million, that's chump change nowadays in the NHL. The Columbus Blue Jackets, they signed Ivan Provorov for 7 years, $8.5 million per, for $59.5 million total earnings for Ivan Provorov. They locked up that stud defenseman on the back. Him and Werenski look great together. It's just a very good signing altogether for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Charlie Coyle, they also acquired him from the Colorado Avalanche for prospect and 2 draft picks, I think it was. And Dante Fabro, he also re-signs in the Columbus organization, 4 years, $4.125 million per year. The Dallas Stars, they did some tidy business, re-signing captain Jamie Benn, 1 year, $1 million. There's also add-ons that go on to it that can make it a bit more of an expensive deal, but on the base salary, it is 1 year, $1 million. Radek Faksa returns to the Dallas Stars organization on a 3-year contract, $2 million per. So it's just a good contract altogether for the Dallas Stars. He's a good depth option, so we will see how he can be incorporated into this lineup with new head coach Glenn Gulutzan. The Detroit Red Wings, they made a couple interesting moves today. They picked up James Van Riemsdyk, JVR, for his 17th NHL season, 1 year, $1 million. He was on the Columbus Blue Jackets last year, played very well. I was actually kind of curious if the Leafs might have sniffed around him, bringing him back, but it just doesn't really make much sense. He wasn't amazing, but he is kind of effective still, so we'll see if he can be that for the Detroit Red Wings. Jared Bernard-Docker, he was acquired for the Buffalo Sabres in the Ottawa Senators trade. That was the Josh Norris trade, or the Dylan Cousins trade, I think it was. 1 year for Jared Bernard-Docker, $875,000. So depth defenseman, you can't go much worse than that. This is kind of a prove-it year for Bernard-Docker. He couldn't make it swing in Buffalo on a team that stinks. So, but a lot of people have made a good career after leaving Buffalo, so we'll see if he can do that for the Detroit Red Wings. The Red Wings on the weekend as well acquired goaltender John Gibson from the Anaheim Ducks for Peter Mrazek and 2 draft picks. So the Red Wings, they lost Alex Lyon, they lost Peter Mrazek, so now they have Gibson, and I don't know who else. Oh, Cam Talbot, I think it is, will be their backup, but it is also a very good option. Gibson, he's wanted out of Anaheim for a long time, so now he gets his wish, and I'm just curious if this will be exactly what Gibson needed to play in front of a decent defense. So Detroit, you better not screw this up, because Gibson's wanted this a long time. So we'll see if this works. Also, Showtime, Patrick Kane, he re-signs in the Motor City for 1 year, $3 million contract. Not a bad deal at all for that team. So yeah, that's the Detroit Red Wings. The Edmonton Oilers, they made a big signing on the weekend, or whatever day it was. Evan Bouchard re-signs for only 4 years, though, at $10.5 million. So that he is banking on himself. I'm sure the AAV could have gone up or down depending on how long he signed, but the Bouch is back in town for 4 more years. Altogether, it's a decent contract for a player like Bouchard, but he needs to learn how to freaking play defense. He is abysmal sometimes at defensive hockey, so we'll see. I can tell you how to do a crossover, but I can't help you with much else. So we'll see what happens with Bouchard. Hopefully he can improve his defensive side of the game. Kasperi, clutch captain, he played very good for the Edmonton Oilers in the playoffs, so he re-ups for 1 year, $1.3 million. We're going to steam past this team. The Florida Panthers, they pretty much re-signed everybody. No, I'm kidding. Let's talk about quickly who they all re-signed. Brad Marchand, he sticks around, unfortunately, in the Atlantic Division. 6 years, $5.25 million, I think it is. So dirt cheap for Brad Marchand. 6 years, though, he is going to be an old... They might have to check him into an old age home by the time that this contract's done. So we'll see how that goes. Tomas Nosek, very good. As soon as the Leafs went up 2-0 in that series against the Florida Panthers, Paul Maurice brought Nosek and a couple other guys into the series, and they took it over. So Nosek, very valuable player in their success in the playoffs, re-ups for $775,000. So super good contract for them, as they need a lot of bargain bin contracts after signing all these players once again. Tarasov, he was on the Columbus Blue Jackets, I think, last year. He 1 year, $1 million. Awesome backup goalie option for the Florida Panthers, as Bobrovsky plays a ton of games anyways. Vitek Vanacek was their backup during the playoffs. So he is a very good option, Tarasov. Vanacek went to Utah, so Tarasov and Vanacek, I think that's a pretty good swap, 1-for-1. Sam Bennett, he re-ups as well. 8 more years. 8 more years. Well, he got the 8 years, and he got $8 million per year to go with it. Ekblad, he also re-signs in Florida, 8 years, $6.1 million. He gave the Florida Panthers a very good deal. Let's just be honest. He gave them a very good deal. He could have gotten way more on the open market, in my opinion. So good for the Florida Panthers. 3-time Stanley Cup champions as of this time next year. The Los Angeles Kings, they had a ton of money to spend in today's free agent frenzy, and they spent some of it. They couldn't re-sign Vladislav Gavrikov. We'll get to him in a minute. But the LA Kings, they're almost guaranteed to go to the Stanley Cup Finals this year. They signed Corey Perry for a 1-year, $3.5 million contract. Perry, he's been to the last 5 of 6 Stanley Cup Finals, so he has a good track record of getting you there, but losing. Joel Armia, former Montreal Canadian, he signs in LA for 2 years, $2.5 million. That's a good depth forward. 2.5, yeah, I think he can live up to it for sure. Cody Ceci, this isn't, in my opinion, the worst signing of today and the free agent class. I gotta say it. 4 years, $4.5 million per. Cody Ceci is not worth that nowadays. He was on the San Jose Sharks last year because nobody else wanted to sign him. But then he got traded to, I think, Dallas, where they used him as a depth defenseman. But $4.5 million for Cody Ceci in the year of 2025? Yikes. Brian Dumoulin signs 3 years, $4 million. He was on New Jersey and Anaheim, my brain is telling me, but not a bad deal. Another older defenseman, so we'll see how he can be in LA. Ken Holland still has a good chunk of change to spend, so we'll see what he can do with that. The Minnesota Wild, they were decently quiet today, but they signed Stanley Cup champion Nico Sturm from the Florida Panthers last year. 2 years, $2 million. He was on San Jose last year and then got traded to Florida and was very solid for them in the playoff run to get them the Stanley Cup. And Vladimir Tarasenko. I couldn't think of Tarasenko's first name for a second, but Tarasenko gets traded from the Detroit Red Wings to the what team we're talking? Minnesota Wild. Man, my head is in a spin. For future considerations. And the last time that the Detroit Red Wings traded somebody for future considerations, it turned into Jake Wollman, who went to the Edmonton Oilers for the playoffs for a first-round draft pick, which is absolutely insane. So hopefully this doesn't bite Stevie Y in the butt again. The Montreal Canadiens, they made a couple pretty good signings, or trades, actually. Signings and trades. Zach Bolduc from the now on the Montreal Canadiens from the St. Louis Blues in exchange for Logan Mailloux. Yeah, I think that's a very good trade. I gotta be honest. Bolduc, he is a good depth forward in the NHL, so I think he can do good for the Montreal Canadiens. And the New York Islanders trade Noah Dobson to the Montreal Canadiens. Dobson then signs an 8-year, $9.5 million contract with the Montreal Canadiens. He will now be the number one, number two defenseman on the Montreal Canadiens, and I think that is an awesome deal for the Montreal Canadiens. The Nashville Predators, I don't know what they're doing with their future right now. They signed Nick Perbix to a 2-year, $5.5 million contract. He was on Tampa Bay last year. Now he's on Nashville. Sure, cool, good for you. Excuse me. Nick Hague, former of the Vegas Golden Knights. He gets traded last night for Colton Sissons and Jeremy Lauzon. Yeah, it was Nick Hague and a conditional third, I think. This is why it's called Kicking with Kikes. You're just kicking with me as I'm spewing out my thoughts. Eric Holla, he also goes to Nashville from New Jersey last year for a pick. So Nashville, they're getting players, sure, but I don't know what they're trying to do. Is Barry Trotz, does he know what he's doing? I don't know. The New Jersey Devils, they got better, in my opinion. They re-signed Jake Allen, which is huge, for 5 years, $1.8 million. That's a good signing. Him and Markstrom are a very good tandem together. Hopefully they both can stay healthy. That's the biggest thing. They also signed downtown Connor Brown, who's been with Edmonton for the past 2 years. Brown, he signs a 4-year, $3 million contract, $12 million total. So Brown's getting a bit older, so 4 years is a bit of a gamble, but at the end of the day, it's only $3 million, and I think you guys can make that work. I really do. Evgeny Dadonov, he signs in New Jersey as well. 1 year, $1 million. Dallas last year, you can't really go wrong. 1 year, $1 million. It's no risk, pretty much. But in my opinion, this makes the Devils tougher, which they desperately needed to do. The New York Islanders, they sign a new goaltender. Big Save Dave. Dave Riddick signs a 1 year, $1 million contract. He was on the LA Kings last year. Tony DeAngelo, he signs a 1 year, $1.75 million contract. They signed him out of Russia last year. Very controversial player. We're not going to get into that. But 1 year, 1.75, I think he's worth that. Jonathan Drouin, he leaves the Colorado Avalanche, signs in Long Island. 2 years, $4 million, $8 million contract. I think that's a very good depth signing for the Islanders, so hopefully he can make a difference for the Islanders. The New York Rangers, they only really did two things today. They signed K'Andre Miller and shipped him off to Carolina, and they signed Vladislav Gavrikov, 7 years, $7 million. Huge contract for Gavrikov, but I think it is worth it. He is a very good defensive player, and I think this will look very good. He will look very good in the blue, white, and red. The Ottawa Senators, 1 year, $825,000 for Nick Cousins. He is a very good defensive and offensive depth option for the Ottawa Senators. He looked pretty good in the playoffs against the Leafs. He's a bit of a mean bugger, which is very good for Ottawa Senators. Lars Eller, the wily veteran, he sticks around in the NHL still. 1 year, $1.25 million contract. He was with Washington last year. Claude Giroux, he re-ups in Ottawa. 1 year, $2 million. I can see Giroux just doing $1 million or 1 year contracts from here on out, seeing how his body is, seeing what his family's thinking. And the Ottawa Senators make a very good move here. Jordan Spence comes from the LA Kings for 2 draft picks. I think that is a outright steal. I think the Ottawa Senators fleeced the LA Kings in this trade. You got to make sure down the line you can see who these draft picks end up being, but right now this is exactly what the Ottawa Senators need. The Philadelphia Flyers, they do some tidy work. They signed Dan Vladar, former backup goaltender of the Calgary Flames, to a 2 year, $3.35 million contract for approximately $6.7 million total. He is a good option for you in net. I think didn't the Flyers go through like 5 or 6 goalies last year? So hopefully Dan Vladar can give you some insurance and some consistency in net. The Flyers, they also signed Christian Dvorak. This is my number 2 worst signing of the day in the NHL even though it is only 1 year. That is why I'm giving it the number 2 spot compared to the other one that we're going to talk or that we talked about. Dvorak. Christian Dvorak signs 1 year, $5.4 million. That is a ton of money for Christian Dvorak, who isn't a horrible player, but he's not he's not a $5.4 million player. Yes, the Philadelphia Flyers have a ton of money to spend, so might as well spend it on Christian Dvorak, I guess. The Flyers, about a week and a half ago, they also traded for Trevor Zegras from the Anaheim Ducks for Ryan Poehling and 2 picks. So this is not your typical Florida or Philadelphia Flyer player. Zegras, he's a very flashy player. He likes doing the fancy plays. He loves doing the Michigans. So hopefully, new head coach Rick Tocchet doesn't get too pissed off at him, because John Tortorella would have kicked him out of the door before he even got there. The Pittsburgh Penguins, they're, according to Elliot Friedman, they are the only team that's not really trying to get better in the NHL right now, and it kind of seems like it from these signings. Philip Tomasino, 1 year, $1.75 million. Connor Dewar, 1 year, $1.1 million. Justin Brazeau, 2 years, $1.5 million. And they acquired Connor Clifton and a second-round pick from Buffalo for Connor Timmins and another depth pick. So nothing crazy for the Pittsburgh Penguins. They are warm bodies that can fill up a lineup. So that is pretty much it that I got for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Nothing crazy, nothing special. The San Jose Sharks, they do some interesting signings. They signed John Klingberg, who was on the Edmonton Oilers throughout the playoffs last year. He got sat a couple times in the playoffs, so let's see if his 1 year, $4 million contract can do anything for the San Jose Sharks this year. William Eklund, a very good prospect for the San Jose Sharks. He re-ups for 3 years, $5.6 million per year. I think that is an awesome signing for a player like Eklund. Nedeljkovic, he just got traded from the Pittsburgh Penguins to San Jose today. Yeah, that's a good depth or rotational goalie for the San Jose Sharks, as they need a goaltender real bad right now. The Seattle Kraken, they do some pretty good moves today. They sign Ryan Lindgren from the Colorado Avalanche, former New York Rangers, for, what was it, my notes say, 4 years, $4.5 million per. That is a pretty good, darn good contract for the Seattle Kraken. They sign Matt Murray, the third option of goaltenders for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I don't think you can do too much wrong. That if Philip Grubauer is as bad as he was last year, you can insert Murray into the backup position. So I think it's a good signing for them. Freddie Gaudreau, he gets traded to the Seattle Kraken from Minnesota Wild for a 2025 fourth round pick. So that pick's already been made. I think that's a very good pick for the Seattle Kraken. Freddie Gaudreau, I think he could slot in as their third or fourth line center, so perfect for what they need. Mason Marchment also got traded to the Seattle Kraken from Dallas last week for 2 draft picks, so I think that is very, very, very tidy business for the Seattle Kraken. But it does beg the question, the Steve Dangle podcast did mention this a couple times, what are the Seattle Kraken? And I think players like Freddie Gaudreau, players like Mason Marchment will show you exactly what they are trying to get. The St. Louis Blues, they did that trade with the Montreal Canadiens that we just talked about. They also signed Nick Bjugstad from the Utah Hockey Club, now the Utah Mammoth. I got to get used to saying that. Bjugstad, he signs 2 years, $1.75 million. Yeah, very good. Bjugstad, he was on the radar for a couple teams at the trade deadline last year because of how good he is as a defensive center. So let's see if he can improve the St. Louis Blues lineup. Joel Hofer, the backup goaltender for the St. Louis Blues, he re-signs in St. Louis for 2 years, $3.4 million. And they also, in that St. Louis trade, they acquired Mayu from the Montreal Canadiens. I think that's good defensive help for the St. Louis Blues. The Tampa Bay Lightning, they didn't do a whole lot today. They re-signed Gage Goncalves, 2 years, $1.2 million. That is good for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They know what they're getting in that player. I don't really know what they're getting in that player. And the Leafs, they did not qualify Pontus Holmberg, and he signs in Tampa Bay. 2 years, $1.5 million. I don't think he would have cracked the Maple Leafs lineup, and the Leafs needed to get rid of some money. So I think this is a good signing for the Tampa Bay Lightning. It hasn't seemed like it, but the Toronto Maple Leafs have been busy in the past couple days. They re-signed Steven Lorentz, a very good depth option for them down in the lineup. 3 years, $1.35 million contract. Awesome. John Tavares re-signs 4 years, $4.388 million per year. I read and heard several times online through insiders that he could have gotten almost $8 million on the open market, and he signed for almost half of that. Tavares, you are getting a statue. Your number's going to the rafters. Thank you very much. Have a good day. I love you. Matthew Nyes, very nice contract for the Maple Leafs. 6 years, $7.75 million. Awesome for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I have no notes. That is an amazing contract for the Toronto Maple Leafs to have for 6 more years. Michael Pezzetta, he got 0 goals for the Montreal Canadiens last year, but you're not getting him for goals. You're getting him to kick the living crap out of the opponent. And as his Instagram story said today, he is living out his dream to be a Maple Leaf. So that is the kind of player you love to have on your team. Nicolas Waugh, he is now a Toronto Maple Leaf. He can't wear number 10 anymore. Who knows? The Vegas Golden Knights traded Nicolas Waugh to the Toronto Maple Leafs in exchange for Mitch Marner and that 8 times $12 million contract. We'll talk about that in the Vegas segment. Matias Maccelli, he also gets traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs from the Utah Mammoth for a conditional 2027 third-round pick. And that conditional will be turned into a second-round pick if Maccelli reaches X amount of points throughout the season. And there's rumors that the Leafs are looking at Mangiapane. So if the Leafs get Mangiapane, Maccelli, and Pezzetta, holy crap, do we got the Italian Mafia on the Maple Leafs now, and I'm here for it every day of the week. Speaking of the Utah Mammoth, they traded Maccelli to the Toronto Maple Leafs, but they re-signed Kailer Yamamoto. 1 year, $775,000, 2-way contract. Nate Schmidt, now Stanley Cup champion Nate Schmidt. He got bought out last year, and now he signs a 3-year, $3.5 million contract. Huge congratulations to Schmidt. He was on the Panthers last year. Very good for them. Extremely good for them in the playoffs and scoring some key goals. Scored their first goal of the playoffs last year against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So he was very valuable. I think the Mammoth are going to love that player. Brandon Tanev. 3 years, $2.5 million contract. He was on the Winnipeg Jets and Seattle Kraken last year. That is a very good signing for the Utah Mammoth. They did some very tidy business today. Like I said in the Florida Panthers segment, Vitek Vanacek, he signs 1 year, $1.5 million. That is a very good rotational goaltender for the Utah Mammoth. And this is the one deal that I absolutely love for the Utah Mammoth. They trade with the Buffalo Sabres Michael Kesselring and Shane Doan's son, Josh Doan. They go to Buffalo, and JJ Peterka, number 77, goes to the Utah Mammoth. I think that is an amazing deal for the Utah Mammoth. Peterka, the Buffalo Sabres are going to regret this one. Even though Kesselring and Doan could turn into very good players, Peterka wanted out, and I think that's the perfect landing spot for him. For the Vancouver Canucks, a huge surprise, and this was the biggest surprise of the day for me. Brock Besser, he went to free agent market, and re-signed with the Vancouver Canucks. I thought he was gone. There was rumors that he was going to Edmonton. There was rumors that he was going to the East Coast. None of that happened. He re-signs for 7 years, $7.25 million contract. He's in Vancouver for a long time now. Speaking of another guy that's in Vancouver for a long time, Connor Garland, 6 years, $36 million contract. That's a very good contract. I love Connor Garland as a player, so the Vancouver Canucks are keeping that small little rat on their team. Also, tidy business. Thatcher Demko signs for 3 years, $25.5 million contract to stay as the goaltender of the Vancouver Canucks. So the Vancouver Canucks, they have some thinking to do with their goaltender. Artur Shilovs, he just won the Calder Cup and would have liked that backup position. So we'll see what happens in the goaltending situation. Maybe Shilov stays there as insurance. But we don't know that. Another thing that the Vancouver Canucks did last week, they traded for Evander Kane from the Edmonton Oilers. Why not help out a divisional rival while you can, you bunch of idiots? They helped the Edmonton Oilers shave a lot of cap space. Evander Kane, he goes to Vancouver for a single draft pick, a 2025 4th round pick. That's it. I don't know why the Edmonton or the Vancouver Canucks let the Oilers do that to them, but they did. 3 teams left. Folks, we're on team 29, the Vegas Golden Knights. They re-signed Brandon Saad, 1 year, $2 million. Great business. They re-signed Riley Smith, 1 year, $2 million. Smith, he wasn't too good for them after coming back to Vegas. He won the cup with them, I think, and he came back to Vegas last year mid-season and was not great. Not great, to be honest. So this is where the big ticket comes in. Mitch Marner, He signs an 8-year, $12 million contract with the Toronto Maple Leafs, gets traded to the Vegas Golden Knights. He is a Vegas Golden Knight for the next 8 years, unless he underperforms for them, which he has a track record of doing in the playoffs for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So there is a lot of internal pressure. Of the pressure in Toronto, it is from external. The fans are giving you all the pressure in Toronto, but the Vegas Golden Knights, they're ruthless. They are absolutely ruthless. If you don't perform for them for X amount of time, you're gone. Marc-Andre Fleury, you're gone. They have no loyalty. They signed you for 8 years, but they're willing to get rid of you very easily. So hopefully that doesn't happen for Mitch. I wish him the best. It's the end of an era. In my opinion, it's the end of a wasted era for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I'm going to root for him. I kind of want a Vegas Golden Knights Mitch Marner jersey. Number 93 looks sick. So we'll see what happens with the Vegas Golden Knights and Mitch Marner. All right, the Washington Capitals, they re-signed Martin Fehervary. 7 years, $6 million. I love Fehervary. I was hoping he would be able to go somewhere else, but not happening this year. 7 years long in Washington for Fehervary. That's a great contract for the Capitals. The Washington Capitals acquired Chisholm from the Minnesota Wild for, what does my note say, a prospect and a 25 fourth round pick, and the Washington Capitals got a 6th round pick. So that's tidy business. Chisholm, I don't know too much about the guy. This is just the facts. I'm not going into depth about each signing, so we'll see what happens for Chisholm in Washington. Last but not least, team 32 of 32, the Winnipeg Jets. They were disappointed that they couldn't go much farther in the playoffs last year, so they signed Tanner Pearson, former of the Vegas Golden Knights, 1 year, $1 million. They signed Cole, I think, Koepke, 1 year, $1 million. So, and then Jonathan Toews makes his huge comeback to the NHL, signs for his hometown team, the Winnipeg Jets, a 1 year, $2 million contract, but there are a lot of incentives in that contract for Toews. And I was listening to a couple podcasts, and if the Winnipeg Jets end up winning the Cup next year, that is a $7 million contract. And the Winnipeg Jets, if they win the Cup, they will not give a hootenanny about that $7 million. So 3 tidy business depth options for the Winnipeg Jets, and let's see if that works out for them. That is it for the free agent signing. It is 7:40 p.m. in the West Coast. I'm in Calgary, so this is as accurate as I could find going through Puckpedia, going through NHL.com. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know who you think the best signing of the day is, and let me know who you think is the worst signing of the day. And we will talk to you later during the summer. Thank you so much for watching this video. Take care, everybody.